This guy should be playing. I mean, this is ridiculous. It's honestly ridiculous.
We'll see, maybe.
He's giving the middle finger to the whole system.
Jordan Spieth has stunned the golf world with a single, unexpected announcement, one that sent ripples through the sport almost immediately. Until now, his future had seemed stable, predictable, almost routine. But his latest revelation was anything but. Today, we'll break down exactly what Spieth confirmed, why it raises more questions than answers, and what this sudden pivot could mean for his career, his legacy, and the PGA Tour itself. The press room reportedly held an almost deceptive calm at first. Spieth entered with his trademark Sunday smile, the one fans had long associated with harmless pre-tournament charm. Within minutes, though, reporters were firing off texts, headlines were being drafted, and fan theories began circulating about the subtext in his carefully polished statements. According to sources, Spieth blended candor with caution. He acknowledged ongoing wrist recovery work, expressed quiet excitement about chasing majors again, and drew a firm line when it came to committing to a packed spring schedule. It wasn't the words themselves that made the headlines, it was the pauses, the half-answers, and the deliberate ellipses between them. Spieth's message felt less like, "Here's what I'll play," and more like, "Watch how I navigate this year, not how often I play." Observers quickly caught on. The old volume-heavy model that had defined his early career was giving way to a minimalist, strategic approach, built around the 2025 majors. Insiders noted that his explanation of test events sounded more like tactical experiments than a return schedule. Appearances at the Cognizant Classic and Phoenix Open were checkpoints, not stepping stones. That alone was noteworthy. Spieth had historically thrived on rhythm, stacking rounds, absorbing tournament reps like oxygen. Adding another layer, he wove in personal context. Mentions of being present at home, reflections on fatherhood, and admissions that rehab required precision rather than bravado all hinted at a player operating in a new emotional universe. Off-mic, reporters shared anecdotes of him joking about micro-practice sessions squeezed between diaper changes, a life now measured not just in fairways, but in bedtime routines. The press conference didn't drop a single bombshell, it created a constellation of hints that together formed a thunderclap. Spieth wasn't taking a break. He was recalibrating. Beneath the apparent shock of his statements lay a strategic reality. Post-wrist surgery, Spieth's team had reportedly shifted into hyper-focused planning, treating each tournament as a controlled test rather than an isolated outing. His early season appearances were designed to stress test the repaired wrist under pressure, range of motion, swing stability, and tolerance, not chase points or headlines. The Cognizant Classic and Phoenix Open became calculated checkpoints in a long-term comeback plan, not mere warm-ups. Behind the scenes, Jordan Spieth's training had taken on an almost scientific precision. Sources close to his team describe how coaches were now relying on velocity trackers and load management metrics to ensure each practice session ended before strain could accumulate. Anti-inflammatory protocols were woven into a daily rhythm of recovery, reinforcement, and protection. Gone were the days of endless repetitions chasing a click. Now, he practiced until the data said, "Stop." This shift from volume-heavy routines to science-governed limits marked a fundamental change in how Spieth approached a season. Psychologically, it was just as significant. Once a player who thrived on competitive streaks and constant repetition, he was now embracing controlled absence, incremental returns, and patience. Analysts noted that his focus on majors signaled a deliberate attempt to peak at the right moments, rather than grind week to week. Skipping winter tune-ups wasn't laziness. It was a calculated bet on freshness over frequency. For sports scientists, the logic was sound. For fans, it looked like a veteran narrowing his focus to what mattered most. Yet with restraint came risk. Fewer starts meant fewer reference points, fewer opportunities to test confidence under pressure, and fewer chances to recapture natural tournament rhythm. Seen through this lens, the press conference shock wasn't drama. It was disciplined strategy, aimed at preserving not just a season, but a legacy. Parallel to this medical and tactical recalibration, a more personal force was reshaping SPE's life: family. The arrival of his third child, Sully, joining siblings Sammy and Sophie, had created a household buzzing with the chaos and joy of 3 young kids. Insiders said fatherhood had shifted from a charming narrative detail to a defining part of his identity, influencing every scheduling decision. His press conference comments about being present weren't empty words. Those close to him noted that weekend commitments, travel plans, and practice hours were all being weighed against the needs of a growing family. Playful anecdotes about rushing between rehab sessions and diaper duties reflected a real balancing act. Elite ambition measured alongside domestic life. Outlets like People reinforced this subtle narrative. Tournament weeks now included family travel logistics, quiet rooms on site, and even spontaneous visits from the kids in practice areas, blending home and career in a way that was uniquely SPE. Beneath the focus on family lay an even deeper purpose: SPE's foundation work. The Jordan Spieth Family Foundation had expanded its youth clinics and special needs initiatives, with SPE reportedly more hands-on than ever. No longer just a figurehead, he was quietly organizing programs, refining junior golf curricula, selecting scholarship recipients, and shaping the foundation's public voice. The deliberate reduction in tournament volume coincided with this increased involvement, suggesting a version of SPE who now measured influence not just through scorecards, but through lasting impact. Even smaller details, his continued participation in PGA Bible study groups, his dynamic with caddy Michael Greller, and routine family dinners at home added layers to the story. Greller's occasional practice loops with other players only underscored the flexibility required to support a calendar no longer dictated by relentless tournaments, but by a strategic and personal balancing act. In the narrative of SPE's shocking press room revelation, this family and community orbit wasn't a subplot. It was the emotional backbone, the quiet force pulling him toward a slower, smarter, and more deliberate chapter of his career. Swing overhaul. Behind the calm tone of his press conference comments, a structural transformation was reportedly underway, driven not by spectacle, but by biomechanics, analytics, and behind-the-scenes adjustments only visible to those rebuilding from the inside out.
So if I'm healthy and feel like I can play, and I called my coach, it was Thursday or Friday of last week, and I just said, hey, what's this golf? He comes here every year. What's the golf course like for me? And he goes, I think it's a great fit. I mean, you got to drive the ball, obviously precise, but tough golf courses in the wind on Bermuda. That's kind of what I grew up on.
Following his 2023 wrist surgery, SPE's coaching team reportedly abandoned the high-volume, marathon-range sessions that had once defined his prep. Instead, they converted his entire training model into a microdosed, tech-monitored experiment. Every swing became a data point, every session, a controlled environment. What fans saw on tournament weekends was just the surface of an increasingly scientific process behind the scenes. Insiders described practice days resembling sports lab studies more than traditional warm-ups. Force plates tracked foot pressure distribution. Velocity sensors monitored transition speeds and wrist load spikes. That data wasn't collected out of curiosity, it regulated every movement, capping certain actions and greenlighting others. Coaches discovered which release patterns the wrist tolerated best, prompting subtle grip adjustments, club setting changes, and a more conservative approach to high-stress shots. Equipment tweaks cataloged by analysts earlier in the season, less torque, more stability, smoother transitions, were part of this quiet technical evolution. The overhaul didn't stop at biomechanics. SPE's pre-event readiness became a checklist-driven routine, determining whether a tournament start was feasible or if extra recovery was needed. Short-game intensity drills replaced endless long iron reps. Simulated rounds replaced day-long range sessions. The goal was efficiency, achieving tournament-level sharpness from fewer swings. Psychologically, This created a new identity. SPE no longer relied on sheer repetition, but on curated precision. This transformation shaped his schedule, confidence, and the logic behind the surprising plan hinted at during the press conference. What appeared cautious to the outside world was actually a carefully engineered system designed to extend his competitive prime, not shorten it. A quiet revolution hidden behind polite statements and a familiar smile. Brand strategy. Beyond wrist rehab and family priorities, insiders in business and sponsorship noticed a deliberate recalibration of SPE's brand. Selective tournament appearances, family-forward choices, and tight-lipped comments about pacing all reinforced a strategy increasingly valued by marketers. Curated presence over constant exposure. Major partners, Titleist, Rolex, NetJets, among others, had long positioned him as a legacy figure rather than a weekly volume star. By playing less but appearing at higher impact moments, SPE elevated both the scarcity and the value of his brand, a strategy often adopted by elite athletes approaching their second career phase.
I mean, this is ridiculous. It's honestly ridiculous.
We'll see. Maybe
he's giving the middle finger to the whole system.
All right. I mean, he's doing what is allowed,
but he knows he's getting sponsors exemptions
for sure. To AT&T,
the whole system, everywhere is giving him sponsors exemptions.
I agree. Well, Bay Hill, he doesn't write good enough letters, but yes, otherwise.
Industry observers noted that sponsors didn't need SPE at every broadcast; they needed him in the right ones. Majors, select invitationals, foundation events, and charitable appearances. These were the moments where emotional storytelling thrived. With the recent expansion of his family, SPE offered a goldmine of wholesome, high-engagement content. Kids on the practice green, soft-focus foundation clips, behind-the-scenes travel moments. No longer reliant on endless tournament coverage, brands could now sell narrative arcs. The father-competitor hybrid, the philanthropist champion, the measured veteran still chasing iconic moments. Fewer events meant more curated storytelling, and storytelling drove value. Of course, this approach carried risks. Reduced weekly exposure could limit casual fan visibility, particularly among viewers who followed golf only on weekends. But SPE's team appeared ready. Enhanced social media storytelling, foundation-focused content, and strategic media appearances ensured cultural relevance even between tournaments. Modern audiences followed athletes not just through leaderboards, but via Instagram grids, feature pieces, and philanthropic initiatives. Analysts also saw this as part of a broader trend: elite players prioritizing longevity over relentless performance. By embracing a brand identity centered on discipline, family, philanthropy, and major-focused competitiveness, SPE positioned himself as a long-term figure in the sport, not just a high-volume performer. The shock of his press conference, then, came from this intersection: a top athlete quietly signaling he would no longer be everywhere, only where it mattered most. It wasn't retreat, it was brand architecture disguised as personal reflection. Majors reckoning. All roads in SPE's press conference narrative led to one destination: the majors. Beneath the family balance, rehab protocols, and sponsor-friendly scheduling, insiders recognized a deeper strategic undertone. SPE was reportedly structuring his season to maximize the probability of peaking at golf's most iconic moments. This wasn't a nostalgia-driven return to past glory. It was a calculated bid for a second prime.
A couple times, this hasn't necessarily been my most successful major, but I feel good heading into this week. So try and, as I've said quite a few times, try and settle into this pairing the first 2 days and have fun with it and see if that can, if I can play well these next couple days, given, the crowds that'll be out there. And I think the weekend might actually feel a little like a breather. In a way. So that's how.
Statistically, the strategy made sense. Veterans who reduced their schedules often arrived at majors sharper, benefiting from rest, focused mental preparation, and targeted practice cycles. SPE's high-variance game, creative recoveries, streaky putting, adrenaline-spiked momentum swings had historically thrived under major week pressure. By limiting tournament load, he was betting on energy conservation rather than repetition. He would arrive fresher, more prepared, and with his risk appetite intact. Fans would no longer see him grinding weekly leaderboards. Instead, he would surface at select Tunyups, test specific swing patterns, and aim his peak performances at Augusta, Pinehurst, Royal Troon, and other iconic venues. Analysts compared the approach to late career arcs of players who weaponized scarcity. Fewer tournaments, bigger moments. Of course, the plan carried uncertainty. A single rehab setback could compress preparation, sponsor demands could conflict with minimal scheduling, and family responsibilities could reshape travel at a moment's notice. Yet each variable added emotional depth to the story. SPE wasn't merely chasing majors. He was proving that a modern champion could build a career on balance rather than burnout. By the time the press conference faded from headlines, the larger arc was clear. SPE was signaling he would compete not for consistency, but for immortality, the kind granted by green jackets, claret jugs, and legacy-defining Sundays. His plan wasn't designed for shock value. It was an engineered late-career blueprint. Jordan SPE didn't announce a reinvention. He revealed it in fragments, leaving the golf world to connect the dots. If his wrist holds, his priorities remain aligned, and his strategy disciplined, he won't just return. He'll reappear where legends carve their names. Major Sundays.